Hi, I'm Dana, and this past weekend I worked at Liverpool Comic Con, and I want to talk about it because I think a lot of autistic people, we struggle with jobs. I've massively struggled with jobs. So finding little bits you can do here and there to earn a bit of extra money that you actually enjoy, really important. But it can still be really difficult to actually do. So that's what we're talking about here today. I'm going to start off by taking you sort of through each day, a minor breakdown of each day, and then talk about the overall thing and how I feel and how other people were and all that fun stuff. Yeah? First day that I worked was the Friday because we were setting up. It was sorting everything out. So I got there for 9. I was there early in the morning and I was horrifically anxious because it was all new and unknown. Even though I did work it last year, this year I was working with a different team. I didn't really know what I was doing, so I was really anxious, combined with the fact that it was a massive change in my routine, making me all the more anxious. I wasn't enjoying my morning. However, the team that I've been working with are absolutely amazing. So as soon as I found people that I knew, I felt a lot better, and I mostly got through Friday. It was at 12 o'clock that it really hit me, I'm exhausted. I am so tired. And I think that was a mixture of having had COVID all of a week before. I'd been out of isolation for 6 days. So I was already I was still tired from COVID essentially. Thrown together with I got up early that morning. I hadn't slept well because I was really anxious. I'd been anxious all morning. All of that put together meant that I was exhausted. And it meant that I got to go home early, which I always feel horrendous being treated differently to other people. No one else got to go home early. No one else needed to go home early. But this bitch did. And I don't like that, I'd much rather be able to stick around and do what everyone else can do. That'd be much nicer. But at the same time, I'm really glad that I'm working with people who have the understanding to be oh, well, go home early then. If you're really tired from COVID, anxiety, whatever else, go home early. I haven't been given that kind of option many times in my work life. So even though I really hate doing it, I'm really glad that I was given the option to without any judgment or shittiness from the people I was working with. So even though Friday was a good experience, it did show me oh, I'm working with really nice people. I woke up on Saturday morning and had a meltdown I haven't had in years. I spent a long time calling what I now think are my meltdowns panic attacks because they're quite similar to my panic attacks. But the difference is that panic attacks have always happened to me really around other people. A lot of my anxiety is social, even though I get intrusive thoughts and other things with it. A lot of it is social. So most of my panic attacks come when I'm around people and there's that closing of the chest and I'm oh, I'm starting to struggle to breathe. My fight or flight's kicking in. I need to leave so I can cry somewhere in peace and hyperventilate. Whereas I've had before, and this time around, the days when I wake up and I'm so overwhelmed by everything that I've got to do and everything that's currently happening. I'm oh, I can feel the bed sheets on my feet and there's a sound outside and everything is too much. It's the complete sensory overwhelm due to being overwhelmed by what I've got to do in the day. And it just was not a good time. I mean, I don't really want to explain what my meltdowns are like, but it's a lot of crying and feeling really bad and feeling really anxious and not being able to breathe. And it's really not a good time. So I had 40 minutes of that in the morning before my boyfriend was okay, well, I'm calling the person you're working for and we're gonna have to figure something out, aren't we? So he phoned who's essentially my boss, I suppose. It's a very natural hierarchy, so it feels weird being he's the boss, but he's the one in charge, so he is. My boyfriend phoned him and he was above and beyond understanding and accepting and kind of all of that. I didn't expect him to be an asshole because I know he's a nice person, but I didn't expect just total acceptance and understanding of the situation. I expected him to be can't you just pull herself together and head on in though? And instead he was oh, that's fine, I'm really sorry she's going through that, let me know what's going on if she can make it in. It was really affirming of the issues I face, I suppose. Like, a lot of the time I do feel like it's a case of like, just pull yourself together, like, come on, stop acting like a child. And that's definitely the reaction I've had from a lot of people around me. So it was really like validating and affirming of like, okay, this is how I feel. People around me are gonna have to understand that. And he did. And it felt really, really nice. And it meant that I could pull myself together enough that like 2 hours later, I went in. However, I did have to have Rich go with me. You know, and that's a place where it comes to like, that's why it's difficult for autistic people to have jobs sometimes. Because like, if I'm stacking tills in Tesco, can't take me fella with me, can I? I can't just be like, oh, this is my boyfriend, you don't need to pay him or anything, but he's just gonna be here with me, like an emotional support animal. You know, so I really appreciated having the ability to accommodate to myself by having my boyfriend there, because it does make me feel a lot better. And it meant that for like the majority of Saturday, it was him doing the things, he was talking to people, I was just rolling the posters and like sorting the money and not really talking to anyone. And that works well for me. But I do want to do this more often, you know, I do want to work with this team and be able to do events like this. And that means that I do need to figure out how to speak to people. And I will give myself that last year I did a lot better. So I am putting at least some of the blame on the fact that I'd had COVID and been isolating. So I was really overwhelmed by the fact that there were suddenly all these people. So I don't think it was entirely like me and my anxiety. But like, I definitely need to learn to do better in that department if I'm going to continue doing this. And that's kind of scary. I really want to enjoy talking to people, but it's just hard to talk to them. So it's difficult to enjoy it when I'm like scared shitless the entire time. But yeah, I spoke to like my boss, we're calling him now, and he was, again, just incredibly understanding and accommodating and accepting and just really, really bloody nice. Like, he said to me that he was just mostly happy that I'd been able to like make it there for myself more so than like for the team or for him. And that was just really like, yeah, thank you, you know? Like, I was really proud of myself for doing it as well, but I would have never like spoken that aloud or said that in this video had it not been for him saying that, because, you know, it felt like a little hint of like, you should be proud of yourself, you managed it. I don't know if he meant it like that, but that's how I'm taking it. So on Sunday I was able to go in a little bit later. I went in at like 11 and I just wasn't having a good day. I don't know what it was on Sunday. I think maybe I was just really overwhelmed from the other days. And like I say, it was a big step out of my routine, being like, I'm waking up in the morning, I've got to get ready, I've got to be at this place. I hate that. I hate it. Whether it's a job, whether it's an appointment, whether it's going out to see friends, it really stresses me. I really don't like it. But it's also something you just have to deal with, like, Jesus Christ. Yeah, Sunday was the most disappointing day for me because I was just so high anxiety to the point where, like, I was being introduced to people that I was, like, really into, you know, like, they seemed like really good people, really interested into the same things that I am, and I was talking to them. I think I was doing quite well at talking to some of them as well. I was really like quite pleased with myself. But I wanted to leave the entire time. You know, and that sucks when you're meeting new people that you want to be friends with, but also your mind the entire time is like, oh my God, I want to go. I don't care where, I just don't want to be here around people. And it sucks. I want to enjoy being around people. I want to be able to meet people that are like me and that I can make friends with and that I have things in common with. And it's really hard. So Rich was still with me on Sunday. And then I had another friend that showed up as well, and my anxiety sort of, I don't know. It was weird. It was like my social anxiety went down because I had like my little group with me that I feel good about. But my general anxiety absolutely skyrocketed. Like, my just general anxiety of like, I was sat there and I was like, I'm comfortable with the people I'm around. There's not like that many people up here. It should be fine. But I feel like I'm about to have a panic attack. So once again, I went home early. And especially on the Sunday, I feel really bad about it because they were packing down, you know, like, I know that there's enough people on the team and that they're all like good enough workers that it was fine. But I was working that too. I should have been there to do that. And I really dislike that I wasn't. And it does feel like just pussying out on the hard work or some shit, you know. I don't feel at all good about it. And that's purely on me. Like, every single person that like is aware of my issues that I've worked with this time around has been absolutely fantastically, amazingly accepting and supportive and lovely. You know, I've not had anyone else make me feel bad. It's only me making me feel bad. You know, and with all that being said, I actually really enjoyed it. Like, I know this has been a bit of like a negative diatribe so far. Is that even the word? We've been rambling with a lot of negativity lately because I had a tough time. However, I did also have a lot of fun. You know, I like the people that are on the team that I'm working with. I enjoy talking to them. I think they're interesting people. And, you know, it is weird to enjoy talking to people while also having like your fight and flight sticking in and feeling like your whole body's tensing up and you want to leave the conversation despite enjoying it. It is horrible, actually. But I think that like with hindsight and having processed it, you can sort of forget a little bit about the anxiety and just remember like the people and the conversations. And that's what I'm trying to do, and that makes me feel like I enjoyed it more. It's a bit odd, but yeah. And you know, like Comic-Con is just nerd Christmas, isn't it? Like, we're accepted at Comic-Con as like a big Doctor Who nerd, a Lord of the Rings nerd, as just a generally nerdy person who has picked on for that stuff in school. It is just nerd Christmas. You get to see people dressed up as like your favourite comfort character, you get to buy a load of stuff from your favourite shows, and it's a good time. And Comic-Con's always felt like a really safe space to me, because I think this was my 10 years of Comic-Con essentially. I started off at Wales Comic-Con and not Liverpool, but 2021's 10 years of me going to Comic-Cons, because they do feel like a safe space where the majority of people are very understanding of like mental health and anxiety and stuff, because we're nerds that all deal with it. So I do think it's a lot easier to like work at Comic-Cons and deal with anxiety at Comic-Cons, because like most people are going to be on to what's going on with me here. You know, it's not as embarrassing as when you're out in just day-to-day life and people are looking at you like you're a weirdo. Going back, I hope I said something about there being like a natural hierarchy to the team. And I feel like I need to explain that a little bit because it's a really weird thing to say without any context. But essentially, obviously there's someone that like owns the business and the company and owns the merch that we're selling and blah de blah. So obviously he is like by default the boss. It's his stuff. We've got to do what he wants with his stuff. But it's exclusively like by circumstance, I suppose. Like obviously he's a good leader and he's a good person, he knows what he's doing, and that's also why. But it just feels very like natural that like, well yeah, he's the one in charge. Then there's this other person, they know the next most stuff about what we should be doing, so they're next in charge. And I work much better with that. Because when I've had jobs where I've gone in and they've been like, okay, so here's your boss, this is your manager, you need to listen to him, I suddenly have the biggest issue with authority, and there is not a chance I am listening to that manager. And I will say that I think a good degree of that is that in many jobs where I've had that happen, I've not been treated with like any degree of respect. You know, and I don't expect people to give me like the utmost respect straight off the bat, but I very much see it as like you approach people with a base level of respect and then they either earn it or lose it. And I don't feel like I was approached with that base level of respect in a lot of jobs. Whereas with this one, I feel like everyone's respecting each other, you know, it just feels very nice. It's a very good team. It feels like, you know, if you need help with something, someone's going to help you. If you're struggling with something, someone's going to like help you. But you know, like it's just very, I don't know how to explain it, because obviously there is like authority. I wouldn't do something that the owner didn't want me to do. I'd ask him first, like, do you want these posters here, do you want me to do this, because it's his stuff. But it's not like, oh, I'd better go and ask the boss what he wants me to do in case I do something wrong. You know, I'm not like scared of him, and I've got a lot of respect for him, like much more than I have for like the majority of other managers and bosses and whatever else I've had, because he shows me that level of respect and shows everyone on the team a really great level of respect. And you know, I can't speak for everyone else, I don't know what everyone else's issues are, but for me and my issues, I've been offered like the utmost understanding and accommodations. You know, I know full well that anything I thought would help, if I said to him like, hi, I'd like this because this would really help me out, he'd do whatever he could to provide me with that. And that makes it a lot easier to not need those things, you know? Like knowing that you're not going to be like left in the fucking dark on your own means that you don't so much have to ask like constantly, oh, can I borrow a torch, can I borrow a torch? If that analogy makes any sense. I think I'm basically just trying to say they're very easy people to work with, you know? And as much as I was anxious for a lot of it, I did really enjoy working with the people on the team and with the whole team. It's a really nice environment to work within. You know, like pretty much all of us have some sort of similarity in some way, and they're just really nice people that are really understanding. And I think I require quite a lot of understanding at times. Like, despite having worked last year's Comic-Con, it was just a much different environment to be working with this team instead of the people I was working with last year. You know, it felt a lot better. I felt supported and respected, and like, despite the anxiety, I was gonna be there and do what I can because I wanted to like provide my own bit of the team, you know. I want to be a part of that team because it's a nice team, and I still feel really bad that I don't feel like I put the same amount into it as everyone else did, and that really sucks. I don't like being seen as lazy or irresponsible or whatever. Like, I want to be able to do my job and do it well and do it, and I don't feel like I did it to the same degree and to the same standard as everyone else did. And they've all assured me it's fine. Like, everyone that was aware and spoke to me about it has told me that it's fine, but I still feel really shitty about it. But at the same time, I think that it's because it's such a good team that I feel bad about it, you know? Like, if everyone there was like kind of an arsehole and half-arsing it and just a bit of a dick, I don't think I'd feel at all bad about being like, yeah, you do the work, then pick up my slack, like, you do it. You know, I'd just be like, well, fuck you, you do it. But because they are nice people and I like them and I want to be a part of the team, I feel really bad that I don't feel like I really pulled my weight. And I'm going to try and take that with, like, I'm not going to dwell on it and feel bad about it, even though I have been. I'm going to try and stop doing that and just take it into the next time I work with them and be like, okay, so I'm going to use that to, like, push myself and drive myself to do better and to be more of a fully fledged, like, pulling my weight member of the team in whatever we do next. I just don't feel like I showed up at Liverpool Comic Con as the best version of my working self, I suppose. And it was an incredibly nice surprise to find that even when I don't have the ability to be the best working version of myself, I can still be treated like I'm valid as a person, and I can still be respected and treated nicely and not spoken down to or shit all over. And I really appreciate that, because as much as I don't think anyone should go through that, I tend to just accept it when it's me. Yeah, so as I've been like talking and making this video, I suppose I realised that I've actually learned a lot from this, and I think that there's a lot of stuff that I figured out and learned from this event that I'm going to be able to take into future ones. I think that I'll be doing better and better each time, you know, especially as I get more comfortable with the team, because, you know, as much as I say I like them and they're all good people and blah, 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 I'm still very anxious around people I don't know well, and I don't know them overly, like, as well as I'd like to not be anxious. So the more that happens, the better I'm going to feel, and the more I'll be able to do, I think. At the end of the day, as much as I'm disappointed in myself for a lot of the ways that I ended up behaving and the accommodations I ended up needing and that, I am proud of myself for showing up, especially on all 3 days. You know, like, Saturday morning, I did not think I was showing up. And, you know, it took me a few hours, but I got there and I did it. And, you know, at the very least, I hope that I showed them I am, like, trying to be dedicated to this. You know, it's difficult to be dedicated to something when you wake up hyperventilating and crying, but I do want to be dedicated to, like, being part of the team and working with them, and yeah. And I think part of it's that I was treated so well as well, because, like, I got quite a lot of time to, like, wander around Comic-Con and buy stuff, you know, like, I was provided with food. Like, last year I spent pretty much all the money that I managed to earn on food, because there's not many places to eat where it is, and I was hungry. And this time I had food provided. Like, that's what I mean. Like, he's just a really thoughtful boss that cares about the people working for him and with him, and it's just really nice. It's a really nice team. It's a really nice way that they work together, and I'm excited and glad that I get to be a part of that. And I just want to be able to feel like I'm pulling my weight there and really being a part of it. And I'm really glad that I'm going to get the opportunity to do that. You know, like, I was convinced on Saturday that I was like, I think the worst of people essentially when I'm having a panic attack or a meltdown, because I think the worst of myself, so I assume they also are. And if they're thinking the worst of me, then they probably feel like I do about myself, and they really don't like me. So I really thought like I was gonna go in and he was gonna be like, yeah, so like this clearly isn't working. I don't want you to work for me again. Maybe we just won't see each other again, like at all. Definitely no working together because you clearly can't do it. Yeah, like I don't know why I thought he was gonna be like rude, because I can't actually imagine him being rude. And yet I was convinced that like that's over for me. You know, he's given me my little trial run here and I've absolutely fucked it up. And that's gonna be that. But it's not. I'm being given extra opportunities. And I feel that from like, because like I talked to him a little about my anxiety and the way I feel and everything else, like trying to keep it semi-professional. And I just really feel like I'm going to be provided with the accommodations and support and acceptance that I need to be able to like develop myself and do this stuff. And I'm very, very anxious, but also really looking forward to it. You know, I think this is going to be really good for me as like a person. You know, like I don't think that we should be putting our value on who we are as people based on how well or how much or whatever else. You know, it shouldn't be placed on a job of any sort. But also I'd like to know that I can do it. I'd like to know that people believe in me. And you know, it's starting to feel like that. I'm feeling good. So I've been talking a while. I'm gonna wrap it up. Long story short, Comic-Con was really fun, but I was hella anxious for the whole thing. I would love to hear from anyone else that has worked any sort of event or like merchandise selling kind of job. I'd love to hear your experiences and the like. I think it's quite common for us as autistic people to end up with sort of like unique jobs, because a 9 to 5 just ain't working for me. And you know, so far this ain't working for me too well either, obviously. But this is something that I think I can learn to like have work for me, and I can like sort of mould myself to it, you know? Like people, sometimes we've got to grow and change, and that's what I'm trying to do with this. I just want to figure it out. I just want to be part of a team, like come on. I think I'm gonna manage it. I feel really good about having like the support and acceptance and to like provided to me to be able to manage it. And I'm feeling good about the future. So yeah, I think that's all I've been trying to say. Could have shortened this down to like a literal 40-second video if that's the case. But whoever you are and wherever you are, I hope you're having a lovely day, week, morning, afternoon, year. I'll see you again in a few days.